Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Speed Plus Garage. Today I'll be showing you how to change the power steering belt on a 5th gen Honda Prelude. The 5th gen should be between the year 1996 and 2001. This is very simple, real easy. You don't really need much. All you really need is a jack, a tire iron, a 10 and a 13 millimeter socket, and obviously the new power steering belt, and potentially, not necessarily, you might need some penetrating fluid, but that should be all that you need to get this job done. The sockets, they might change a little depending on if someone had went in your Honda Prelude and messed with it a little. It might have a different size, but for me it's a 10 and a 13 millimeter socket, and then I'll walk you through it step by step on what to do. So what you're gonna want to do for step one is you're gonna loosen the lug nuts on the tire and you're gonna jack up the car. Now this little metal piece of bar right here is gonna be your jack point for your 5th gen Preludes, and that's what you're gonna need to jack or put your jack stand or your jack underneath when you're jacking up the vehicle. Now that you got the car jacked up and the lug nuts removed, the next step is for you to remove the tire. After removing the tire, your next step is gonna take you to the engine bay. So you're just gonna come around and open up your hood. Alright, you're gonna open up your hood, and now we'll be working here. This is your power steering, by the way, or your power steering pump. So that's what we're gonna be focusing on putting on the belt on. As you can see that my car doesn't have any belts. The previous owner of this car removed the belt. I heard some sort of a rumor that you can get extra horsepower by removing your power steering belt. I don't know how true that is, but for whatever reason they removed it. Even without the power steering belt, the car can still be driven. It's just hard to turn at low speeds. So that's what I'm here trying to correct. Now your first step in the engine bay, what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to loosen this bolt right here, and you're also gonna want to loosen this bolt right here. You don't have to take them out completely, you just have to loosen them. Now once you finish loosening those bolts, your next step is you're going to want to loosen this bolt and get it adjusted to the point where you can take off your belts, if you're taking off your old belt in your case. But in this case, since I don't have any belt, I'm just gonna loosen it so I can put on my belt. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get it loosened. Now with all three of those bolts loosened, you should be able to move your power steering pump up and down like this. So that should give you enough space to take off your old belt if that's what you're doing. But now it should give me also enough clearance to put on my new belt in my case. Now, I had forgot to mention that sometimes in these cars there's a little panel or heat shield, and I don't know what you would call it here, that covers the crank pulley. All you need to do is remove the bolts and to get that off. But once that's off, this is what you'll see. So now that you've loosened your power steering pump pulley, right, you see that I have my belt on it right now. So all I did was follow the steps and loosened it, and then I fed my new power steering pump belt from around the crank pulley right here. This little extra one, this right here is the serpentine belt, and this right here is the power steering belt. Now you feed it through here. You grab it up at the top of right here. You grab it up at the top of the engine bay, and then now that your power steering pump is loosened, all you have to do is just put it over the pulley right here, and then you tighten everything back down, Once you got everything tightened back down, you put on your wheel, or well, some of you might have the case where you have the little panel right here, but you put on your panel, you put on your wheel, you close your lug nuts, and then you lower your car, and that should take care of putting on the power steering belt for the 5th gen Prelude. So now I've tightened back my 3 bolts, so my pump is firm, won't move. So yeah. Alright, so now I have completely lowered my car back, removed the jack, put on back the wheel, and now I'm gonna fire it up to make sure that the new belt is installed. But first, let me check if it's tight, and it seems pretty tight on. So now I'm gonna fire it up and check if the belt's installed correctly, and if there's no squeaks. So, because after you put on this belt, there shouldn't be any squeaks. Oh, by the way, in case I didn't mention this during the video, when you're putting on the belt, you want this flat side on the top, and then you want the more rigid, bumpy side. I don't know if you can see from here, like the more rigid side, to lay at the bottom, touching the pulley. So let's go fire it up, and then we'll see if it's installed correctly and if it's squeak free. Alright, so moment of truth. Let's see. Well, I don't hear any squeaking, and would you look at that, the belt is moving fine. So that is how to properly install your power steering belts for a 5th gen Honda Prelude. This method might work on other older model Hondas, but I can't say for sure. I have to check. But for the 5th gen, that is how you do it. Now, this has been Speed Plus Garage.
Don't play with her, don't be dishonest. Ay, still not understanding this logic.